Welcome back to the Let's Talk Baseball Podcast, episode 23 of the Let's Talk Baseball Podcast. The 2023 season is officially over. What a wacky season. The NL takes the All-Star game, a lot of special moments. Obviously, the podcast started for us this season. That's why we love it. A lot of teams you thought weren't going to make the playoffs made it. Rangers, Marlins. A lot of teams you thought were going to make the World Series didn't even make the playoffs. I'm looking at you, Padres, Mets, and Yanks. But overall, great weekend. Miggy Cabrera, Adam Waino, they get their final send off. Some other guys might have too. Zach Greinke and Votto, even though he got ejected. We hate that. But now we're looking forward to the playoffs. They're here, Jacob. We are here, playoff baseball, the best time of the year. It ain't Christmas. It ain't Halloween. It is playoff baseball. And we're so excited to get off some pretty interesting wild card series we're gonna get into and preview. But first, let's get into it. Jacob, how you doing, my man? How you been?
Man, playoff baseball is here. I am
Yeah.
so excited. It felt like this season, like it went by slowly, but it also feels like it went by fast. Like I feel like we just started, we were 20, 30 games into the season, and all of a sudden, bang, we're in October. The playoff bracket is set, and man, am I excited to get into these wild card series.
It's gonna be great, man. It's gonna be great. So, of course, the full schedule drops, or well, not drops. Sorry, the full schedule is released on the MLB.com website. The first game for the wild cards would be on Tuesday. This video will come out the day before that Monday, so you guys can go out and have a day to watch that. But yeah, right now we're just previewing the series. Right now, talking about anything interesting that happened. Of course, in the final days, I am so Cubs and Mariners fans. I am so sorry. Your hearts are with me. I thought the Mariners were going to come back and do it. My friends are actually on a cross country trip in Seattle right now. They went to the first game, left in the eighth inning, and didn't get to see the walk off. That hurt. That hurt me. But so you had hope for them. You had hope that they would come back. Maybe the Diamondbacks would beat up the Astros a little bit. Maybe the Mariners can sneak into a tiebreaker. No, man, and the Astros end up winning it all. After all that, after we had questioned ourselves, will the Rangers ever lose first place? Well, Cubs. I mean, you just told, but thanks. Bellinger's gonna be a Dodger again, so looking forward to that. But yeah, we're excited. The official seeding for the 2023 playoffs in the American League. Your number one seed and your number two seeds, respectfully, are Baltimore and Houston, so they get the bye. The three through six seeds in order is the Minnesota Twins, the Rays, the Rangers, and the Jays, which means you would have the Jays facing the Twins in Minnesota, and you would have the Rangers facing the Rays in Tampa, Jacob. This might honestly go down. I say it. One of the greatest wild card series of all time. We'll see. In the NL, the number one and two seeds, the Braves and Dodgers, you already know, they get the bye. The three through six seeds, respectfully, in the NL, the Brew Crew, the Phillies, the Marlins. Good for them. You know what? I'm happy for them. And of course, the Arizona Diamondbacks. The wild card series would have the Crew and the Diamondbacks in Milwaukee, and the Marlins and the Phillies in Philadelphia. That's going to be an interesting one. So, Jacob, you know what? We're Dodger fans. Let's start off in the NL. And you know what? Since we're in the NL West, why not? Let's go Diamondbacks Brewers. Now, the Diamondbacks kind of had a cold sweep, losing their last few games to those Astros there. Could not rally late, which is something that you have to take into account of, that they had rallies in the late innings and they just could not get anything done. Obviously, they have some guys there. You like how they're going to be able to have maybe a Gallon set up for a game one, not maybe a Kelly. I don't know, depending on where you're at. But the Brewers, man, they do what they do. Christian Yelich came back and had a really nice year for them. Willie Contreras had an 828 OPS for them. And they're like, if I'm talking about offense versus pitching here, I like the Milwaukee's pitching more, but I like Arizona's offense more. If I'm gonna be honest with you. Milwaukee's their rotation. Freddie Peralta 3.86 ERA, Burns 3.39, Brandon Woodruff 2.28. Even Wade Miley had a 3.14 ERA. So I don't know, man. In the regular season, the Diamondbacks did win the regular season series 4-2. I don't know, man. I mean, what are we looking for from these teams to in this series? What do we think's gonna happen?
I am not sold by the Diamondbacks. They started off really hot in the season. We were starting to think maybe they could take first place in the NL West, especially when they were playing well and the Dodgers weren't playing so hot. Um, and they kind of just barely squeaked into the playoffs by the end of the season. These Diamondbacks, while they were strong during the start, they really started to fall off towards the middle and towards the end. Not so much right up into the end, but this past series against the Astros was
It
kind
was
of weak.
rough, dude. It was rough.
It was kind of weak, offensively weak, and let me be specific. Their pitching was great. Their pitching did exactly what they needed to do. They held the Astros to, I think it was like 6 runs through 3 games or something silly like that. And you would think that would probably lead to at least a series win. No, it did not. It was very abysmal from the Arizona Diamondbacks, and I feel like that's what we've been seeing in these past weeks.
They even lost the
Arizona,
last game to the White Sox. You don't do that. You just
they
can't.
they had a lot of runway to lock this wild card up, and they made it right down to the final day. And it was very scary in that respect. So I see this being a huge uphill battle for the Diamondbacks. I agree. I think the Brewers pitching overall, starting and bullpen is stronger than the Diamondbacks, and the Brewers offense has been better in recently
They had
um
some win
than the
streaks.
Diamondbacks. Yeah.
Mark Canna, what an acquisition for them. I didn't think he was going to be much for anything for them. Not that he's bad, but that just because I just didn't think Mark Canna would go out there and be a dog like that. In 50 games, he had 5 homers, 33 RBI, a 287 average, and 800 OPS. He came in and shoved for them. Speaking of their pitching being the Brew Crew's pitching being relatively better, Jacob, over his last 7 starts, Zach Gallen has had a basically 5 ERA from your ace who was supposed to win the Cy Young at the All-Star break. That's not what you want to see. Merrill
And
Kelly's been kind of toughed up.
I would say not only supposed to, I would say he was like well
Yeah,
ahead of
well
anybody
ahead.
else. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy to think, man. I honestly agree with you. I can't see this series going to 3 games. I'm gonna go with the Brewers taking this 2-1. Would you agree 2-1 or 2-0?
I think Brewers 2-0. I don't think
Wow.
I really don't think the Diamondbacks are going to put up much competition, and that makes me sad because I like the Diamondbacks as a team. I love their core. I love their young guns. I think they're a really fun ball club. I am just not convinced, and obviously there's some recency bias to this, but that kind of is how it has to be. I'm not convinced that the Diamondbacks offense can go toe to toe with the Brewers pitching staff, especially fresh off of um, being a little bit more comfortable within these last couple games. They weren't needing to pressure for a win, whereas the Diamondbacks have been stressing over some of these wins and losses. So I definitely take the Brewers 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, even when you look at it, I mean, not only do you have have an L4 10-year season, one from the White Sox, 3 from the Astros. In the month of September, they had lost 3 to the Mets and 2 to the Yanks. At this point in the season, with what those teams are, you just don't do that if you're trying to go for it. And the Brewers, they weren't losing those games. Yeah. So let's stick in the NL, a series I'm actually kind of conflicted of because, and I'm gonna give you my opinion. The Marlins and the Philadelphia Phillies, Jacob. Now the Marlins have if I read the numbers right, the Marlins have the season series over the Phillies by 1 game. By 1 game. Yes, they are without Sandy Alcantara. But when you look at so right now, of course, if you go on to MLB.com, the slated starters for game 1 of the wild card series for this is Jesus Luzardo and Zach Wheeler. And personally, I would argue that Jesus Luzardo has had a better season than Zach Wheeler. I feel like you can make the argument. If you guys don't know if you guys don't remember who Jesus Luzardo is, look up his stats. Or you know what? I'll tell you them right now because they're kind of nutty. He's been their guy all year, having a better year than Sandy Alcantara, last year's reigning Cy Young. He had a 3.63 ERA, 208 strikeouts, and 178 innings with a 1.22 whip. That's not bad. That's not bad for really your first full season of actually having to be that ace in 32 games. And then they have Braxton Garrett, 31 games, 3.66 ERA for the game too. Like I feel like your mind just goes to Philly, and Trey Turner's been hot. Zach Wheeler's does his thing. Taijuan Walker just doesn't lose. They have Craig Kimbrell, who's been good for them. They have guys in the bullpen that are there. You have Bryce Harper, who's been back. Nicky Castellanos with a bounce back year. But is it so crazy for me that I kind of think the Marlins really actually have a shot to win this? I don't know, Jacob. What do you think?
Have a shot? Yes, I think so. But we're talking about the Philadelphia Phillies in the postseason in Philadelphia.
In Philadelphia.
I think if we were in Florida, I'd be a little bit I would feel a little bit different about this series. I'm fairly confident that the Phillies take the series. Now, can the Marlins cause some problems? Can they get into that bullpen? Can they take them 3 games? Can they really put up a fight even if they do lose the series? Absolutely. And especially of late, these Marlins have really started to come into
They
their
are
own.
hot, dude.
They
And
are red hot.
I forgot about this, Jacob. A thing to consider: tomorrow they have to play one more inning because their Mets game was suspended. That means one of your guys in the
Get out of here. Okay? MLB, the game. It doesn't matter. Get out of here. Stop it. Don't make them play an inning. Stop. And I think it's the top of the 9th with 2 outs or something.
It is.
It's stop it, dude. Get out of here. The game doesn't matter. I don't care if it's 2-1. It doesn't matter for the Mets. It doesn't matter for the Marlins. It's literally only going to cause problems, if anything. MLB, if you make them play that out, that's ridiculous. But whatever. I think the Marlins have a shot of causing some problems, especially considering the Phillies. They're a very hot or not team.
Yeah.
They go through streaks where they are tearing it up, dominating the league. Just you could think of them as the best team in that span. And then there are times where they are down, their bats are off, their pitching is not good. There are times where they're just not hot. So for me, it really depends on what we see in game 1. If we see in game one, the Phillies just take it to the Marlins, absolutely destroy them, 6 or more run differential, I think we see a very easy Phillies 2-0. Now, if we see a close game or maybe the Marlins take game 1, now we're going to be starting to have a different conversation because the Phillies are a very momentum-based team. Like I said, if they take game 1 and it's pretty convincing, they're going to roll them game 2. If they don't, things might start to get iffy. It might start to get a little scary. These Marlins, they're a scrappy team. They're offensively pretty strong. That Jake Burger guy, I want to be
dude.
Los Angeles.
If you guys haven't heard the name Jake Burger, if the Marlins have a somewhat special postseason, I guarantee you by the end of it, you're gonna know his name. In 50 games with the club, 53 games, a 303 average, a 505 slugging, 860 OPS, and 9 homers, and is the tormentor of the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's insane. And okay, close your eyes, Jacob, and pick and try to and then imagine this, right? You have any Phillies pitcher, right? Arias, who granted has been struggling, dealing with an injury to his ankle, he gets on base. Next up, you have Jorge Soler. He hits a bomb. That's up 2-0 in the first, Jacob. How many times have they done that this year? I don't know. But that's something to consider when you think about lineups. You have Arias, who is basically a guaranteed hit. And then you have Jorge Soler, who sometimes, when he's hot, can be a guaranteed homer. I don't know.
And granted, he's been hitting the ball a lot better these past few months than he did towards the start or towards the
Yeah.
middle. Again, I think considering it's the Phillies in Philadelphia, I think they're going to win the series.
In Philadelphia,
But I'm not like convinced. I'm not. This isn't like I'm 90% positive that the Phillies are going to win. I think the Marlins have a chance of causing some ruckus, man.
yeah.
When you consider they have Jorge Soler, they have Luis Arias, they have Jazz Chisholm, they have Jake Berger. I mean,
Josh
those
Bell, who came back and did good for them.
Josh Bell, who was absolutely horrific for the first half of the season and got traded and has really rejuvenated, at least this season, maybe possibly his career. I'm telling you, man, like they're not. I don't think the
They might be
Marlins are going to go down without a
scary.
fight.
They're not.
Yeah,
They're not.
they're. I'm not convinced that either of these two. Well, actually, yeah, I'm not convinced either of these two teams can take it all the way, but I think either one of them, given some momentum, can win not only this series but can probably take their divisional matchup, maybe depending on how things roll out. Especially with the Braves. I mean,
Dude,
granted,
they have questions. They have questions.
they've been soaring and they kind of fallen off towards the end. Now, granted, it's been because they haven't been super competitive and they haven't needed to be.
But so you
But
want
there's
those
still some
guys to get your
questions.
reps. You want them to be there.
Yeah.
They're gonna be without a Charlie Morton. Look how he's shaped up into not only their rotation over the year, but their postseason success over these past couple of years, especially against Philadelphia. Obviously Acuna does his thing. Marcell Ozuna hit 40 homers. So that's the Braves being the Braves. I don't know, man. What's your series prediction? What do you say? You say 2-1 Phillies?
I'm gonna say 2-1 Phillies, but I'm gonna say that I am not confident about that 2-1 Phillies. I'm not confident
You can't.
because it can literally go 2-0 Phillies, 2-1 Phillies, 2-1 Marlins. I really don't think the Marlins can 2-0 the Philadelphia Phillies in Philadelphia, but if that were to happen, that'd be crazy. But we also have to consider, if you think about what happened last year in the wild card series, it was complete chaos.
Dude.
Absolute chaos. Like every single series, I think there were, of the 4 series, I think 3 of them went the way of the underdog.
Yeah, Padres won that one.
The Padres won. The
Phillies
Guardians won. The Phillies won. And the Mariners.
Yeah.
Mariners beat the Blue Jays. Dude, this is. I mean, it's about as up in the air.
Anything can
as I think
happen
any
in
of them
3
are.
games. Anything can
Yeah.
happen in 3 games.
A 3-game series is it's scary, man. It's scary looking at it. That's why you want to get out of these wild cards. That's why if you're the Phillies, you wanted to beat the Braves in the divisional series. If you're the Diamondbacks, you wanted to beat the Dodgers for the divisional title. Like
Yeah.
you didn't want to be stuck in these wild card series. We're gonna talk about the Rangers. This is a big deal, the fact that they are going to be in the wild card series over the Astros, who are going to get a bye. It's crazy, man. It's ridiculous.
It's crazy to think again how much this changes if this series is in Miami. But and of course you never want to be like the guy who says all the hypotheticals, what ifs. But let's do an what if for a second. Let's say the Mets do tie that game, that 1-inning game tomorrow. Or today, technically, when this video comes out. And this goes for a couple more extra innings. I mean, you're having your guys going to be more tired. Some of your relievers, your pitching might not be great or greatly rested. I don't know. I mean, I think that's where I would give the Phillies a 2-1.
So the only reason I wouldn't play out, the only
I don't
reason
know.
I wouldn't play out this game is for that reason. in this game should have been completed earlier on and shouldn't have effects on the wild card series.
Absolutely.
Which in reality, if we do play out this game, will very likely have an effect on the wild card series. Maybe it's a minimal effect because the game gets tied up, or not tied up, but like finished within that inning. Then there's nothing to worry about. But if
Does
it
it?
does go to extra innings, if it does get into using 1, 2, 3 of those pieces, now we're starting to talk about, okay, is this going to be a problem? Is it going to be a problem for game 1? Probably not. Obviously, you wouldn't be using anybody of value for that game 1, but game 2, if they make a game 3, I don't know.
I don't
It's
know,
going to be
dude.
interesting.
I think I'm gonna go 2-1 Phils. I mean, yeah, I think I just have to. I mean, the Marlins are just solid, but the Phillies are streaky, and when they're hot, you cannot stop them. So we'll see. We'll see. And Jacob, I might have the hottest take on this AL series because I think the Twins take the series 2-1. Because hear me out, Jacob. Hear me out, okay? I don't know. I could be persuaded. I could be wrong. But as I stand right now, the Twins currently have Sonny Gray and Pablo Lopez and Sonny Gray as your game 1 and 2 starters. The Blue Jays will probably double back that up with Gossman and Barrios. Granted, Gossman might outdo Lopez, but I would have Gray outdoing Barrios. I mean, the offenses aren't really apart eye to eye, and you are going to have some inexperience with some guys, but the Twins are a team. I feel like you kind of have to believe in them. Not have to, but I mean, they're going to be without. I don't know what Carlos Correa's health status is at the moment, but like if you can get 5, 6 solid innings out of the Twin starters, I'd be confident you wouldn't be losing the rest of the game, or I'd be confident it'd be done. I don't think you would be able to say that if you're a Blue Jays guy. If you're in the Blue Jays pen, I don't know. The hitting's obviously I feel like better on the Jays. You have Vladdy down year, Springer's down year, Bichette's health is always a question. I don't know, man. I don't know. I kind of think we might see some sneaky Twins magic here. I don't know. They are looking for their first playoff win in like what, almost 20 years? What do you think, Jacob?
Well, I think, thank God, the Yankees didn't make the postseason, at least for the Twins' sake. Yeah, I think this is a more interesting.
It's in Minnesota.
It's a more interesting series given face value, because obviously for the longest time we've talked about how the divisional winner shouldn't be seated where they're seated.
Oh, I was
Most
so
often
upset with this.
most often with the Central Leagues. The Central Leagues have had worse teams for a good majority of the past 2 decades, and they always tend to be seated higher than the better team in the first wild card spot. That being said, we are playing a series between the divisional leader, who shouldn't be a 3rd seed, and the Blue Jays, who are arguably the best lineup playing the worst that made the playoffs. So what I'm saying by that is, you look at the lineup, you look at the Blue Jays lineup, you look at their starting rotation, you look at who they have in the bullpen. On paper, if you were going into this postseason on paper, just looking at the rosters, you think the Blue Jays would take this series without question. Not only would take this series without question, but you would very, very confidently believe that the Blue Jays have probably the 3rd or 4th best chance of winning the World Series. Just straight up off of roster, bullpen, starting rotation. But it's not done in a bubble. Now, granted, obviously, once you make it to the playoffs, you get a hard reset. Everything's up in the air.
Everything's up in the air.
But you kind of do have to look at the way they've been playing
Yeah.
and the fact that they have not nearly come close to their best baseball that they've been playing. This entire season, they have been on the brink of being a playoff contender. For a while, you had the Red Sox who were looking better than the Jays for a good majority of that season, and then just kind of fell off a cliff. Um, you have the Rays and the Orioles who were very, very, very clearly for the entire season better than the Jays. And you had them coming down to the line, making the playoffs. I mean, it came down to these last few days for them to even say for sure that they were going to be
Yeah.
in the playoffs.
I in the last video I had them out of the playoffs.
I did too. I thought that they were not nearly good enough. I thought the Marlins or the Mariners were going to make it. Shout out to the Mariners one time because
They tried, dude. I love the
guys,
Mariners. They tried.
look, man, they tried but they blew it. They
Yeah.
blew it. I mean, you can sit here and say, okay, what if they won this series back then? What if they had a better month here? Whatever. They had an opportunity to make the playoffs, and they threw it away. They absolutely threw it away. Um, they should have taken the series against the Astros. They should have taken the series against the Rangers. They should have played better, but they didn't. And well, here we are. But aside from that, I I'm not convinced by the Blue Jays. I know typically when we look at this series, even the sixth seed is usually better than the third seed. Um, but I don't know, man. In Minnesota,
In Minnesota, you
with
know
the
they
pitching staff that the Twins have, they have a good pitching
exactly.
staff, man.
And even here's a question. So the Jays do have the season series 42. So you can look at that way. Another con for the Twins, most of their hottest hitters are the rooks, are the guys without the experience.
That's the thing, man. The Twins, they just don't have a convincing offense. Um, and they haven't had this entire season. It's just,
It's been very
it's,
streaky. It's been very
yeah,
streaky.
it's very on and off. They'll go a game where they win by 14 runs, and then they'll go 2 games with scoring 1 run. I mean, it's just how much is this pitching staff gonna have to go to set up their team for a win?
Here are
Because I
their
feel,
sorry,
go
here
ahead.
are their guys currently on the IL as it stands. Byron Buxton, Joey Gallo, Royce Lewis, Carlos Correa,
That kid
Jose
Royce Lewis,
Miranda.
that kid Royce Lewis was a godsend for them. Like he he would be. I'm telling you right now, if he's not on the IL, given the start of the wild card, he would have been the wild card MVP for that team,
Yeah.
100%. Because this kid was just setting the baseball league on fire. 4 grand slams within like 50 games or something stupid like that. I think it was even less than that. Now that I think about it, um, he was on a tear. He was on an absolute tear, and would have been a huge presence going into this wild card series. And I don't think you can look at one guy on this lineup for the Twins and say he's gonna have a breakout series. Like there's guys who might, maybe not, but you can't look at one and say that this guy's gonna go off.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to say 2-1 Twins. I really do.
I'm gonna, I'm
Yeah,
down.
I think I have
I'm gonna
to.
say I'm gonna say 2-1 Twins, and I'm only gonna say this because I am not sold on the Blue Jays offense being able to compete with the Twins pitching. Um, they've proven that they're not a solid group, even though they should be. Granted, that can all change in the postseason, but considering where they've been, I'm gonna say the Twins edge it out in Minnesota.
In
Had this
Minnesota.
ha-
Had this been in Toronto,
Had this
I
been in
agree.
Toronto, I would 100% say Blue Jays take this series. 100%. With the momentum, with their crowd behind them, given that, absolutely, I would say Blue Jays. But given the circumstances, I'm gonna say Twins 2-1.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. And moving on to our final wild card series, which I've already had as possibly going down as one of the best of all time. Because look at the teams. The Tampa Bay Rays will be hosting the Texas Rangers in Florida. The Texas Rangers have won the season series 4-2. Each team respectfully has a guy that's probably gonna finish top 5 in MVP voting. Each team has taken a bunch of hits, whether it's just bad things that have happened or just injuries. You want to believe in the Rangers pitching. But and of course you're like, well, the bullpen's been awful. The same thing was being said about the Phillies last year, and they made the World Series. And you have guys that experience in that pen. Will Smith, the lefty closer, not the catcher, was amazing for the 2021 Braves. Aroldis Chapman, yes, he's Aroldis Chapman, but look at his postseason success, Jacob. And then you go to the other side. You go to the Rays, right? They went like the Dodgers. They went from having one of the worst bullpens in the league to one of the best by the end of the season. They have an untraditional rotation, which makes me question. Their 4 starters right now are Aaron Savale, who had a 5.36 ERA for them when they traded him, or after since they traded him. Zach Eflin, their biggest free agent signing in history, with a 3.50 ERA. Tyler Glasnow, who's obviously nasty, and Taj Bradley, a rook with this 5.6 ERA. And then you look at the lineup for each, and you're like, okay, these guys both pop. These guys have the MVP guys. They have the guys that are gonna go out and they're going to hit. But it's in Tampa Bay, and I'm taking the Rays 2-1.
I think this is gonna be a great series, but for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
I think this is the battle of the limping giants. Because you have the Texas Rangers who had gone all season being at the top of their division and just absolutely crashing out of that division leadership into the wild card series to the point where they aren't even able to host the series. And then and considering their bullpen has been absolute garbage. It's been a dumpster fire. A straight up dumpster fire. They have so many blown saves. It's ridiculous. And then you look at the Rays, who have been plagued by injury, and who have gone from one of the best MLB starts we've ever seen to not even winning their division. I mean, you're looking at 2 teams who going in probably about 40 games, 50 games into the season, you're like, these guys are going to win their division. There is no doubt in my mind. To both of them now having to be in the wild card series. It's literally going to be a coin flip because you have the Texas Rangers whose offense is absolutely dominant, and you have the Texas bullpen who cannot save a game to save their lives. So it's going to be
I
a
saw a
battle of
stat that I think they had 33 blown saves the entire season.
Michael, it's stupid. Michael, what's going on in their bullpen is ridiculous. I mean, I cannot imagine what it feels like to be on the Texas Rangers and being in that bullpen just thinking, "Oh my God, don't say my name," or don't say his name. You know, they just can't count on anybody
Jacob,
right now, man.
they are 27th in saves overall in the year. The teams ahead of them, some of them, the Cardinals, Padres, Tigers, Nationals, Angels, Yankees, Pittsburgh Pirates, Cleveland Guardians.
I mean, it would be one thing if they weren't on that list because they didn't have that many save opportunities to begin with. But don't get me wrong, Michael, they have. They have had all those opportunities and they have blown them away.
They
It
went, yeah,
it's
33. They went 30 for 63 in save opportunities this year.
that is disgusting. That is horrific. That many blown saves is absolutely atrocious. I don't know, man. Like I said, like the only way the Rangers can convincingly win a game at this point is they have to be up by 6 runs going into the 8th inning.
Yeah.
Anything else, like you're gonna be on the edge of your seat, waiting. Like when are they gonna blow this game? When is it going to become tied and go to extra innings? Like, or when are we gonna get walked off on because it's in Florida?
Yep. And
That
their
being
hottest
said,
hitter, sorry, the hottest hitter over the last couple of weeks, because I always like to do last 15 days because last 7 days could be a little like it's too serious. Their hottest hitter over the last 15 days was Evan Carter, who is a kid and called up this month. This month, Jacob. Yes, he's been amazing for them, and I'm so glad they have another success story on their team for that offense. But he's a kid. When you have Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, Adolis Garcia, Mitch Garver, and you have a kid being your hottest hitter going into the postseason, that's not necessarily great. I wouldn't be too happy about that. They lost today 1-0 to the Mariners. What do you I said 2-1 Rays. What do you think?
I'm gonna say 2-1 Rangers.
Oh!
Given everything that I said, I think the Rangers are going to pull through, and I think it's going to be on the back of an incredible offensive performance from a couple of players on their lineup. I think Adolis Garcia has a great chance to make some moves. I think Corey Seager has been one of the best offensive players in the league this year. Carter, he's going to be. I think he can kind of stick with it and make things happen in the playoffs. I'm not convinced that the Rays are going to be able to get through this series, considering all their injuries and the fact that they've been kind of tumbling to the finish line. Like I said, I think it's a battle of the limping giants, and it's a matter of which one of them is injured more and falls first.
Yeah, this is going to be a very, very wacky postseason. This Friday we'll have a video recovering the wild card series. Might obviously be a little bit later because of the fact that some of these series might not be finished until Thursday night. And we'll also be previewing the division series, so that is something to look out for. Jacob, I think your prediction for the World Series at the beginning of this year, I think it was either Dodgers Jays or Dodgers Astros. Mine was Dodgers Mariners. Now with this new updated format, and who's in? Who do you have?
Dodgers Orioles.
Yeah, I think because if I'm being honest, I kind of think the Phillies and the Diamondbacks take out the Braves.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
Yep. Dodgers O's. We'll see you in Baltimore. No, we won't. Just kidding. Maybe. Well, who knows? You can't never say never. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Let's Talk Baseball podcast. I'm your host, Michael Herrera, joined by my good friend and co-host, Jacob Payne. The playoffs are here. We're excited, and we'll see you next time.